Joining me on the line as he does every kind of Friday on the show. Okay, truth be told, it's a day early because Mike is going on vacation. Ladies and gentlemen, from Cinemablend.com, it is Mike Reyes. Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm doing okay. How about yourself?
Well, this is the second time we've tried to do this interview, so, it is what it is.
Yeah, so just bumps along the road,
Yeah.
And also, like you said, trying to get this out early before vacation because we still got a lot of interesting stuff to talk about.
All right, let's dive into it. We got a few movies to review this week, a couple interesting ones, if I remember right, and some interesting movie news, a couple fairly big stories. Movie-wise, where do you want to start this week?
I guess we can just start from the bottom, work up to the top.
Okay.
In which case, we will start out with Father Stu, which is not to say it's a bad film, but it is the one that I rated the lowest of the week. And it stars Mark Wahlberg and is the true story of Father Stuart Long, a former boxer / wannabe actor, who, through some providence in his own life, eventually wants to become a Catholic priest. Oh, and did I mention it's an R-rated movie with some swearing and Mel Gibson playing his dad?
You kind of described what kind of character Mel Gibson is playing, and it's like, that's perfect. Despite the things he's done on the outside of things, it's like, wow, that really sums up his part right there. But
oh yeah, there's a joke that they throw in this movie where through some context of Mel Gibson's past, kind of was a head scratcher.
I gotcha. This is kind of a side note, but kind of a not side note. This movie, I feel like we're in a world where advertising for movies is really overdone or underdone, and I would say this movie is kind of on the underdone side. I didn't hear anything about this until fairly recently.
Yeah, my first mention, besides getting the invite to do the interviews for it, was a couple of YouTube ads. And again, there's a movie called Father Stu, and you hear that story. It sounds like it's going to be like those other faith-based movies that are out there. But this is definitely, this comes from writer / debut director Rosalind Ross, who is Mel Gibson's girlfriend, if I remember correctly. And she's also a friend of Mark Wahlberg's. When he heard about this story, he thought that she was perfect to pick up the project because he was originally working with David O. Russell, who directed him in The Fighter.
Okay.
But then that fell apart, and then he redeveloped it. And now you've got the movie that's out today. And it's, like I said, it's kind of surprising that you see a faith-based movie and it's rated R for language throughout.
Oh, I was just going to ask what you thought. You said it was the lesser of the three, but it wasn't bad. What's going on with it?
No, it's not bad. I mean, it's a genuinely solid film. I wouldn't even compare this to faith-based movies. I compare this to underdog sports movies / biopics because it's just, in the beginning you see Stuart as this guy who has to quit boxing. Trying to make a living. He has a problem with alcohol, and then through a near-death experience, it starts his journey towards faith. And as someone who may not exactly be in the market for faith-based movies, this seemed pretty solid. I mean, there's still a couple places here and there where it's a bit rough, and especially with some of the language that's used in the film. I'm not talking about foul language. I'm talking about a couple words that we don't use anymore, kind of getting dropped in there. But it's a genuinely decent movie.
All right. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joining me on the line. What's next?
Next on the list it's our big movie of the week, Fantastic Beasts, The Secrets of Dumbledore.
This is interesting. I was talking to my wife about this whole series the other day, and not to step on your toes there, but we were Harry Potter fans. We saw the movies, we bought the books, we've done all that. This whole series, I could not care less about it.
Fantastic Beasts is a hard sell. I mean, when they first announced that they wanted to do 5 movies off of Fantastic Beasts and where to find them, I was flabbergasted because it's like, look, you can do a movie about the Beasts. That's no problem. But if you want to do this movie about it, eventually when it came out, I was like, I want a movie about Dumbledore's younger years. And then it turned out that they started doing that, but it was still tied to the Fantastic Beasts name, and it was through a horrible sequel called The Crimes of Grindelwald. Fantastic Beasts, The Secrets of Dumbledore manages to be the best one out of the 3 so far. And I liked the first one fine enough, but this is the best one because it feels like the most Harry Potter of the 3. And of course, it also helps that you've got Mads Mikkelsen now playing Grindelwald. And honestly, since they did the whole Colin Farrell switch up at the end of the first film, I think Mads Mikkelsen should have been the real Grindelwald all the way through because I prefer his performance in that role.
That's interesting. I don't know why, but yeah, like you said, if that's the most Harry Potter of the 3, I may kind of look into it, but I don't know what it is. I've it's on HBO. It's on, it's been out, and I just don't care.
Well, the thing is, they focus on almost two different pieces of this world, almost, because this is all prequelized, and these are different characters that some of them you've read about in textbooks, and some of them you've seen older versions of. It's not Harry, Ron, and Hermione. Some people are saying that they should just switch to do an adaptation of Cursed Child instead of doing the next two for Fantastic Beasts, because movies 4 and 5 are not officially greenlit. Apparently, they're going to see how this one does in theaters and decide afterwards.
Okay. I was just gonna. We could have a whole conversation about this, I imagine.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, like I said, this has been the best one so far because it felt like it was the most Potter-esque, and it also had some of the more intriguing story elements. And another really cool thing that I can say about this movie, besides, the actual film, I got to do some interviews with the cast talking about adopting Fantastic Beasts, which should be up on Cinemablend at some point in the near future.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, dude, this was so much fun. They were paired rooms. So I got to talk to Eddie Redmayne and Jude Law in the same room.
Oh,
so
cool.
Newt Scamander and Professor Dumbledore. Jessica Williams, who's one of the new cast members. You might remember her from her time on The Daily Show. She plays Professor Hicks.
Uh-huh.
She was paired with Mads Mikkelsen, who is just so chill and charming. Like, everybody loves to remember his villains from, like, Casino Royale, or remember him as Hannibal Lecter. Well, Hannibal Lecter was charming in the show. But he's just so cool, chill, and great to talk to. And then the last room was Dan Fogler and Alison Sudol. So Jacob and Queenie.
Interesting. I'm looking at some of this stuff, and I'm thinking about all the different stories you could do with this world.
Yeah, that's why I was kind of, I wish they would have done an anthology like you did the Fantastic Beasts movie. Maybe you do the Quidditch movie. Maybe you even do the Three Tales of Beetle the Bard adapted in full instead of just the short sequence in The End of Deathly Hallows.
Yeah.
And then maybe do a couple more original films. But I think the biggest problem was Steve Kloves, who was the writer of all but one Harry Potter movie, has just been brought back into Fantastic Beasts as a writer. He's been an executive producer, but he was just brought back as a writer, and he's clearly the secret sauce of this franchise. Like,
Okay.
J.K. Rowling writing those first two screenplays on her own just was okay to not so good.
I don't know. Okay, let me ask you, if you were going to write a different story for the Harry Potter world for a movie series, what would you do? Because there's the obvious ones like The Rise of Voldemort or The Rise of He Who Shall Not Be Named. The just regular Dumbledore story without the Fantastic Beasts stuff.
Yeah, see, that was the one thing I really wanted. Like, towards the end of Harry Potter, I was just thinking to myself, I really want them to do young Dumbledore versus Grindelwald, do like a World War II wizard story.
Yeah.
Especially because of the fact that the Nazis were so fascinated with the occult. You'd be in like borderline Indiana Jones territory right there.
Yeah.
And that felt like the great idea. And they might slowly be winding to that. But the thing is, those first two movies, you can almost ignore the first two movies. At least I have a theory that you could ignore those first two. I need to go back and watch them to double check, but I almost feel like you could ignore those first two and just jump into this one because it does a good job of rehashing everything that happened before and then moving along.
I was just saying, you know what else would be a good story from that?
What?
The founding of Hogwarts.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that would be wonderful.
You could do that. You could do, I'm trying to think of some of the other stories, the Headless Hunt.
Like, there's so many different possibilities because the world is rich with them.
Yeah.
But Fantastic Beasts, it would have been a great thing for a one-off. I just don't know if it should have been 5 whole movies dedicated to it. But I'm interested to see the next two.
Okay.
I want the next two to happen.
All right. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joining me on the line. I'm just sitting here pondering the other things you could do with the Harry Potter universe.
Yeah, it's big.
It is. That's what she said. What's the final movie we got this week?
The final movie this week, which is actually my favorite of the ones that I've seen for this week, is Duel, which is, I'm just going to do a very simple description of this because the less you know, the better.
Okay.
Karen Gillan has to fight herself, and part of the movie is her learning how to fight with Aaron Paul.
All right. That sounds awesome.
That is exactly right. That's all you need to know. And this is from writer-director Riley Stearns, who was known for The Art of Self-Defense, which is another really interesting movie that if you want to check it out, it's on Hulu. But Riley Stearns is really good with what I've called sort of the seedy strip mall universe. Like Art of Self-Defense is in this karate studio that's like in the middle of a strip mall, and then Duel isn't a one-for-one for that sort of thing. But what's interesting is it's this technology. They talk about this technology that's very sci-fi friendly, but it's like it's any other medical procedure, and it's not a very bells and whistles sort of near future. It's very grounded, and the implications that are eventually leaked throughout the film are it's a really fun sort of mind screw to get around.
I think it's interesting. You bring up the future stuff, and it's hard to make. I think it's hard for people to do like far out future.
You really have to have a vision. Like if you're a Denis Villeneuve who does Blade Runner 2049, like that's a great far out future.
Because I don't know. It's hard to do those futuristic movies and do them well anymore.
Yeah, but this one's quite good.
Good. What's the best part about it?
I'd say the best part about it is watching Karen Gillan's performances, because I've been a fan of hers since her time on Doctor Who, and it's been really cool to watch what she's sort of gotten into afterwards, and just everything from playing Nebula in the MCU to doing a movie as wild as this. It's just really a lot of fun to see what she does with this character and see how unsettling this world is without having to hammer you on the head with it.
Do you think she'll ever win like an Oscar or anything?
I would love to see that. I think I honestly don't think that's a bad idea. At this point, I'm not thinking can she do it. I'm thinking how does she do it?
I mean, it'd have to be. That is a good question. Ooh, you want a good podcast? How would somebody win an Oscar? What would the movie have to be? Yeah, like the perfect project for them to win. And she's also a director, so there's always that possibility. Yeah. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend. Yeah, Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joining me on the line. All right, so Duel is really good. That's the best one of the three, but they're all good this week is kind of what you're saying, right? There's some better than others, but it's not a bad week for movies, especially if, you got Father Stu if you want to go see something with your family at Easter, but also has a little bit of cheek to it. And then Fantastic Beasts is great for people who are loyal to the series and who want to give it a shot. But yeah, Duel is so fun. Going back to the Dumbledore stuff. Going back. Sorry, I keep going back to it because it's such a that, and it's not like we're in a huge hurry this week because it's not Friday and I need to edit it right now. But go back to that. I mean, the possibility, like whatever you want to say about J.K. Rowling, she created a world with endless possibilities when it comes to storylines. Oh, she absolutely did. And that's basically how the Harry Potter brand has stayed alive for all this time without a book being published. I mean, you've got Pottermore, which it has like these little lore expansions that she publishes. And then you've got all these little details that are hidden throughout all that stuff that could easily be latched onto. They barely use McGonagall in the last two movies. You could do a whole series about her. Yeah. I mean, like we were going back to, like if you're going to do more stories, like the easy one is the rise of he who should not be named, right? Yeah. That's the easiest possibility. That and have Adam Driver be a young Severus. That would be interesting. That would be really interesting. What else could you do with that? I mean, the founding of Hogwarts, that's one. Could you really do, imagine a serious sports movie, but based on Quidditch. Oh yeah. Oh, you could totally do that. It'd be interesting, right? That's your standard sports movie in the Harry Potter world. That's the obstacle, is how do you adapt that into this fantastic sport, like this big fantasy sport, but you've got, you could basically do like a soccer movie with that. For some reason, I pictured kicking and screaming in my head. Or do unnecessary roughness with Quidditch. Oh, that'd be awesome. That would be the best. No, necessary roughness. Major League with Quidditch. Necessary Roughness is one of the most underrated football movies of all time. Major League with Quidditch. Oh, that's awesome. You may hit like Dumbledore, but you run like shit. I don't know. I got a guy on line 2 looking for some white walls. Or what if you did? What was the one room where Sirius Black died? It was Hall of Prophecy. Well, it was that, but there was a whole thing about one of the floors was like the Hall of Mysteries or something.
Yeah.
You could do that. Hell, you could base a whole series on the Hall of Mysteries and make it like like you were saying, a Harry Potter, Indiana Jones movie.
Oh, yeah. Or like Harry Potter, Unsolved Mysteries.
Or, Harry Potter, the Book of Merlin. And they're going back to try and find something with Merlin or something,
Now I'm just stuck on the idea of, like, you bring Michael Gambon back as Dumbledore, and he's like the Robert Stack of Harry Potter's Unsolved Mysteries.
I mean,
Hello, I'm Professor Albus Dumbledore, and this week we're going to peek into some mysteries of the wizarding world, and maybe you can help solve them.
That's funny. Unsolved Mysteries. That's good. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joining me on the line. All right, let's take a look at movie news this week. Probably the big story, and it's the saddest of the stories we'll talk about. The one and only Gilbert Gottfried passed away at the age of 67. Apparently had a long-standing illness, according to his family, if I remember the article correctly.
Yeah, this was something that people just did not see coming, because I still remember when I first heard about it, one of our editors posted it in the work chat that Jason Alexander had tweeted about Gilbert Gottfried's passing. And the whole thing was that broke right before his official platform started putting out the news themselves. So we were like, oh, maybe this might be something erroneous. We're just going to keep an eye on it. And then sure enough, it turned out to be sadly accurate. And he had passed due to myotonic dystrophy type 2, which is, recurrent ventricular tachycardia due to myotonic dystrophy type 2. And I believe it's something akin to muscular dystrophy.
That and the other one is like a fast heart rate rising from lower chambers in the heart. So I don't want to jump into the medical stuff because I don't think we could do it justice. But no, kind of out of nowhere. And the guy I used to do the morning show with, he wrote me this week and he's like, we interviewed Gilbert, didn't we? And I feel like we did, but I can't not remember when or what it was about.
I would have loved to have interviewed him, because the most wonderful thing about Gilbert Gottfried was he was someone like Robin Williams, where he could scale his personality and his humor to any audience. And I'm not just saying that because of the fact that they were both in Aladdin, but also, he did he was in Are You Afraid of the Dark when I was a kid. He was in one of my favorite episodes because he was in it. And it was this story about these two boys that found like a radio station of the dead.
Oh, wow.
And they go to visit it. And he's the guy that's running it. And he plays this wonderful line of like menace and sort of actual evil. And knowing that he's such a fan of like classic Universal horror movies, the way that he attacked that role was even more exciting. And then, so got to see him in things like Problem Child as a kid too. And then eventually you grow up and you hear him tell the Aristocrats, and you just see him in another wonderful light.
Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joining me on the line. Yeah, Gilbert Gottfried. There's a lot more you could go into. I still think my favorite thing he did was the Beverly Hills Cops. Which one was it? Was it the first one or the second one?
I think it was 2, because I've seen everyone talking about that, and I haven't seen that. So I'm going to have to go look that up.
Oh,
I've seen Beverly Hills Cop, but
I forgot he was in Hot to Trot.
Yes. Yes, he was.
Oh, you've seen Hot.
Oh,
you've seen Hot to Trot, right?
I was just about to say, you want to talk about an underrated movie? I watched that as a kid on HBO, and what a damn! Wasn't it the voice of the horse? And Bobcat Goldthwait was like the guy looking after him.
It was Bobcat was the guy, and John Candy was Don the horse.
Oh! I forgot John Candy was in that. I know Dabney Coleman was in there as the villain too, because the one thing I remember from it is they're like having some sort of meeting, and I guess there was like something wrong with a batch of oats. Indio oats. They're like, Indio oats.
Oh, that's good. God, boy, when's the last time you talked about Hot to Trot?
I know, right? Someone should do a podcast about undervalued movies and name it Overdue Rentals.
Hey, yeah, that'd be a brilliant idea. Maybe somebody would listen to it.
Maybe you could be on that show, buddy.
You know what? I'd love to go back on it.
I think we may just have to get you on for Hot to Trot.
Oh God, Hot to Trot. That or it's John K. I like how we're doing the 7 levels of Kevin Bacon connecting all this, because we went from Gilbert Gottfried to Hot to Trot. or no, I'm sorry, Beverly Hills Cop to Hot to Trot, now to John Candy. We were talking about Who's Harry Crumb the other day.
Another one I still gotta say.
You've never seen Who's Harry Crumb?
No.
Oh, it's wonderful. He's the PI that his family's like a really famous bunch of private investigators, and he's like the shitty one. And it's just great. And he plays, and he dresses up like a jockey in it too. So there's your Hot to Trot. Oh, that's good.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I forget. Oh, the last time I was on, we did Memoirs of an Invisible Man. That's what we did.
Yes, that's what we did.
Good.
And that was wonderful.
Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joining me. So, Gilbert Gottfried, we wish you nothing but the best in the great beyond. Over in the other parts of movie news, is the Jurassic Park stuff bigger, or I forget what the other story was?
In Jurassic Park, we could do very quickly because there was a new featurette release that basically had the legacy cast and the director and cast of the Jurassic World trilogy talking about how the new movie, like, they were talking about their memories of Jurassic Park and how the new movie mixes the two trilogies together. And it's just it was really cool to see, like, Sam Neill, Jeff Goldblum, and Laura Dern all talking about their experience on the first one. Bryce Dallas Howard and Chris Pratt talk about how they reacted when they first saw the movie. And then Colin Trevorrow, the co-writer and director of the new movie, who was also the director of Jurassic World, coming in and saying, this is like a culmination of the story Steven Spielberg started telling in 1993. And it looks fantastic.
Boy, just think if we would have got the movie where they were mixing dino DNA with human DNA.
Pass.
That was supposed to be one of the ideas for Jurassic Park, wasn't it?
And I think I remember. I think that might have been one of the drafts for 4 that they didn't use.
Yeah.
Because there was also like highly cloned raptors, and the bad guy was in like a Swiss castle, and it was like a Bond villain. I vaguely remember these details.
That's the movie I want to see. Mike, when does that come out again, by the way?
June 10th, which is a year and a day removed from the 30th anniversary of Jurassic Park.
Wow, 30 years since Jurassic Park.
I know, man. I still remember going to see that movie in the theater.
I do too. And did I ever tell you the story about Jurassic Park the first time I saw it?
I don't think you did.
So we were on vacation. I forget. We were either in Colorado or we were in Minnesota, and I can't remember. I think it was Minnesota, but we were in like a cabin or whatever. We went and saw it, and then that night there was a storm, and all of a sudden the screen on the inside of the window fell off and like landed, and I looked down at it and it looked like it had claw marks on it because it was like it was the metal mesh and it was kind of bent.
Oh no.
And I was like, holy, there's raptors.
Mom, Dad, these creatures from 65 million years ago have been brought back to come and terrorize me.
They're after me exclusively.
Only me in this part of the country at this time of year, localized within this cabin.
And then I wet myself.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
Well, you have to at that point. I mean, if there was ever a dinosaur, that's probably one of the few moments where if the bowel released or the bladder released or whatever, you're probably, no one's going to hold that against you, right?
No. The prehistoric killing machine is roaming the ground near when you're near certain death. That's about a good time to avoid the bowel.
I mean, imagine making fun of somebody. You yourself when the raptors came around the corner.
And then 2 seconds later, they do the same thing.
Oh, God. And then you turn around, the T-Rex is staring at you. It's like, oh, God. Oh, that's funny. Cool. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com. What are we wrapping up with this week, man?
So there was an interesting story that seemed to break really quickly over the last half a day, I want to say. So Channing Tatum is currently filming Magic Mike's Last Dance, which is the final Magic Mike film in the trilogy. It's going to be going to HBO Max.
Okay.
And they've been filming for like the past 11 days. Like they're early in production. And Tendaway Newton from Westworld and Reminiscence most recently. Oh, no, she was also in All the Old Knives. But, yeah, most people would know her as Maeve from Westworld. She was cast in a role in the film. And after 11 days, Warner Brothers had announced that due to dealing with family matters, he made a difficult decision to step away from the film. and they recast Salma Hayek in her role. So now they have to refilm the 11 days worth of footage they already have. But then shortly after that announcement, rumors started to come up. And the big rumor as to why she left was that it wasn't because she was stepping away for family matters. People were saying that was the usual, party line. The rumors were saying that she and Channing Tatum got into such a huge argument about the Will Smith slap that he just stormed off a set, got in the car, left for the day, and was like, I can't work with her anymore. And because of him being, a producer and the star of the movie, that's what led to her being removed. But then her team came out and was like, yeah, that's totally false. So for now, what the truth seems to be is she did step away for family issues, and Salma Hayek will be taking her part.
I was going to say, I wonder what it would have been that, what side were I'm guessing they were on opposing sides in it, but what side would they have been on?
Yeah, I don't know. All I know is that the reports that alleged there was a fight said that it was very nasty. But again, her team and Warner Brothers team have come out and said that's not true. She's stepped away due to family issues, and that's that.
Huh, interesting. Conspiracies in the world of Hollywood.
Well, it's also coming from The Sun, and that's it's one of England's leading tabloids, and they have the prerequisite paparazzi photos in there and everything, and it's I sometimes they get things right and sometimes they don't. At least that's what an editor colleague of mine had said on staff, because we covered that on the site this morning. But who really knows the concrete truth at this point? I just kind of hope that everybody can walk away from this, mend fences and whatnot.
I will say this: I'm A-okay with Salma Hayek.
Everyone should be A-okay with Salma Hayek. She's fantastic.
You've interviewed her before, haven't you?
Yes, and she is fantastic to talk to.
She
is so expressive. The woman radiates energy, and in junket rooms, it's sometimes it's a little nerve-wracking because you're trying to stay on your questions, you're trying to keep on topic. But with her, it was an easy conversation, and then she's just so bombastic, throwing her hands around, and she's like, "Oh, Mike, you got to we were talking about Eternals at that point. She's like, "Oh, Mike, they had me do this and this and this," and it was just such a wonderful conversation.
Salma Hayek, you're just a fantastic lady. Oh, all right. We'll end it there this week. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joining me on the line to talk about movies. Mike, you have yourself an excellent vacation down in Georgia, and we will see you next time, okay?
Have a good one, man.